welcome to this new episode with your hosts Christopher Teig and Fernanda Verduzco. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Pete Neubig. How are you, Pete, today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, guys, for letting me be on your initial podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Pete Neubig is the former co-founder of Empire Industries Realty and Property Management based in Houston, Texas. He sold his company to Mind Management, where he was the vice president of Eastern Operations. Pete is currently the co-founder and CEO of BPM Solutions. BPM Solutions is an online platform that connects the real estate industry with virtual team members across the globe. Pete is a past board member of the National Association of Residential Property Managers and is the current host of NARPM radio podcast. When Pete is not working, he runs marathons with his wife Felicia.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Yeah, so Pete is a friend of mine. He's a mentor. Spends a lot of time with me. He's not shy to tell me when I'm acting like a victim and get off my rear end and get stuff done. So, he's got
Which is quite often.
just about every day. But so Pete's a special guy in my life, and I appreciate his friendship. So that bio is kind of like a high picture, high level bio of you. So can you just tell us a little bit more about you, how you got into property management, and how Empire started?
Yeah, well, I'll even actually go back a little further that my family were entrepreneurs. A couple of my uncles were entrepreneurs, but my dad was a firefighter. And so when I grew up like, hey, you got to go get good grades. You got to go to a good school. You got to go get a good job. So instead of taking the entrepreneurial way, I ended up going to school, getting, I guess, okay grades, but I got a job and I got a good job, and I was in IT for like 20 years. So I didn't start my entrepreneurial journey until I was 40 years old.
Okay.
All right. And so I'm 51 as of this recording.
Yeah.
And so, so a big cautionary tale there is, I just went the kind of that standard way. And what I should have done is I should have actually reached out to my uncles and my grandfather, and I should have, been a little bit more in their lives and learned more about what they were doing, because evidently I had the entrepreneurial spirit,
right.
And I ended up creating what became, Empire Property Management. And then now I'm creating my second business. My uncle is still on his first business. He's owned it for over 40 years, and
Wow.
they do like $300 million a year.
Nice.
So, there's so many benefits to being an entrepreneur
Right.
and a business owner.
Right.
Not just the tax benefits, but really the freedom of what you want to do, when you can do it,
Yeah.
and the time, and of course, eventually the money, right? You don't make the money right away.
Yep.
In my case at Empire, I actually made more money as an employee for many years. But when I sold Empire, we sold it for, millions of dollars.
Right.
And so that's where I recouped all that
Sure.
hard work.
All that, yeah.
So that's kind of, how I got into how I became an entrepreneur was I was actually looking. So a funny story I have is when I was 31, I wanted to own a Smoothie King because I was into working out. And, when you're young and you don't really know, you just, whatever you're into, you're like, I'm going to build a business on that, right?
Exactly.
I talk to college kids all the time. Every one of them wants to build a gym. I'm not sure why, but they all want to build a gym. Like, that's So I wanted to build this. I wanted to go and own a Smoothie King. I was going to buy a franchise. I was going to move back. I'm living in Texas right now. I'm from New York City. I was going to move back to New York City. I was going to open up a Smoothie King franchise, and that's what I was going to do. And I was talking to my best friend who lives up there, and his wife just kind of jokingly said, "You should just go work at a Smoothie King." And I thought that was brilliant, so I did. At 31 years old, I'm leaving my IT job, and I was a manager, and I had 5 or 6 people under me that were all older than me. I was still the young guy at that time. I had $1 million budget. I'm making like $80,000 a year, and this is back in like 2001.
Yeah.
And I drive over to Smoothie King, and my boss is a 17-year-old kid. And my first day on the job, he's like, "Okay, go peel bananas, go mop the floor." So ego's in check. I felt like it was actually, now that I think about it, it's almost like an episode of Undercover Boss, right?
Yeah.
Because they had no idea of course, all these, I'm basically working with teenagers. And of course, they all think I'm a loser because I'm 31 years old, and I'm working for $6 an hour, doing peeling bananas. So at the end of my first night, I was a trainee. At the end of my first night, in the evenings, normally only two people work at Smoothie King. There's the person in the front that makes the drinks and the person that does the register and then kind of does in the back end, right? There's not three people, but when you have a training person, it's three people. Yeah. So at the end, they have this tip jar, and it's like, I don't know, like $15 in it, and they're like, "Hey man, because you're training, you don't get tips." And I go, "That's fine. I don't get." No, man. And he goes, I'm kidding, man. You get tips. You share tips. I'm like, $5. I'm like, no, that's okay. Like, I don't need tips. So I get off a quote unquote, I get off a training. And the funny thing was, I was only supposed to be at Smoothie King for like maybe a week or maybe a month at the most. Like, I always wanted to learn the business, right? I don't know what happened, Chris, but I was there for like 4 months. The whole summer I was there. I was working Memorial Day weekend, July 4th weekend. Wow. I worked Labor Day week. I don't know. They were sending me to other stores. Like, I became this awesome Smoothie King like employee. I learned the business in about a week, to be honest with you. Yeah. I ended up taking a couple of days off from my real job to meet with the manager, who, by the way, that interview process was very interesting because they write down like on your application, how much money do you make? Yeah. And I make like 75,000. You know, they're like waiting for like $5-6 an hour. She looks at the application, she goes, "I think you make too much money." I go, "Here's what I want to do. I'm thinking about buying a Smoothie King. Yeah. I can give you a couple of months." So she's cool, right? So anyway, so I come off of training, so now there's only two of us working, and I don't take any of the tips. I never take the tips. I give it to the kids because they're high school kids. They get ready to go to college, right? Exactly. And so word gets out that I don't take tips. So when you write, so when they make the schedule, people are bidding to come work with me on the schedule. So I became a hot commodity in the Smoothie King on Sage in San Felipe here in Houston.
That's funny.
So yeah, so that's how I got into it. I decided not to make that decision. Sometimes the best decisions are the ones you don't make in business. Yeah, exactly. And I decided not to move forward. I ended up buying real estate, and I thought real estate would become the business. And real estate is not the business. Real estate is to build wealth. Real estate is the investment. Right. And what I was trying to do, I was trying to buy enough real estate to offset my income from my job. And what happened was, I'm buying cash flow based properties. And I know I'm going on a tangent here, but
no, it's good.
I'm buying cash flow based properties only because I'm thinking of one thing: how do I get my $6,000 a month that I'm getting from my company? How do I replace that with rental income? So what I'm not thinking of is appreciation. I'm not thinking, which is the main way you make money in real estate. So I'm not thinking that way. So I buy all low income houses because there's a lot less money to get in there, and it's higher in theory on the spreadsheet. It's higher income, right? So you're making, $400 a month or $500 a month or $600 a month with $5,000-$10,000 down. Whereas if you go buy something nicer, that might appreciate. So I was buying stuff in a low income area. Yeah. And so what happened was, I realized I was buying all this stuff, and at the end of the year, I actually had to take money out of my bank account and put it into the business account. Oh. Right? So they were losing money, basically. Yeah, yeah. So now I had to work even harder at my job to make sure I didn't lose that job. So what I thought was the business that I was buying was actually, you have to realize that it's an investment. You're not going to live off the cash flow unless you buy something really big, right? Like apartments and stuff like that. Right. So I went about it the wrong way. And so I needed to create a business. I didn't want to be an employee anymore. And what happened was, we bought so many bad houses. So Steve Rosenberg, who's my business partner at the time, who, Chris, I know you know him, and I'm sure he'll be on by the way, Steve, I got on the first episode. You're going to be in a later episode. So Steve and we bought 30, 40 houses together. I also owned a bunch of apartment complexes. I owned one with Steve, owned two others with some other guys. And every year I'm like, holy crap, I'm losing money, right? Yeah. We bought so many houses. We managed them so poorly that we went out to look for a management company. Yeah. And as I was interviewing management companies, I'm like, man, I can build a better mousetrap than this. Right, right. Like every entrepreneur thinks they can do everything better than everybody else. Exactly. And that's how we got into it. Now, cautionary tale number 2 is, the first one was I should have reached out to my in-laws, not my in-laws, my uncles. Yeah. The second one was, I should have done this earlier. Sure. So I had apartments, I had houses, and now I'm creating a management company. I'm not sure what the heck I'm doing. I'm working full time. Yeah. Oh, and I'm engaged, and I'm trying to plan a wedding all in 1 year. And so the next cautionary tale is, don't quit your job when you have an idea. right? Because the job is the income. Because when you start your business, you're not going to make any money for at least a year in most cases, right? I'm sure there's somebody out there that's raising his hand and said, no, I did it in 30 days. I'm sure. But I can tell you in Empire, my salary went from, I was an IT consultant, I was an IT just senior engineer making $110,000 a year. My first year in Empire, I made $12,000. I paid myself $1,000 a month. So unless you are going to have, investors that are investing in you, do not think that you're going to be break even within 30 days and making money right away. So it takes a little bit of time. So the other part of that though is don't wait too long either.
Yeah.
I was running, 200 units with my apartment complexes, the ones I owned, and then the stuff that we were managing from Empire, and I was still working full time.
Wow.
And it took luckily I was with my company for 12 years. I went part-time first. They allowed that, and it allowed me to hire somebody, and we had a great exit strategy.
Right.
So I had a 6-month exit strategy. And then they came to me one day. I will never forget. It was like in November. They're like, okay, man, you sure you're out of this? Because at the end of the year, you're not in the budget anymore. I said, no, I'm out. I'm not going to. That's when I had, Steve calls it burning the bridge, burning the boats, whatever you want to call. But so the cautionary tale is you have to make a decision at some point.
Exactly.
And you have to, I was ready. Mentally, I was ready. We had hired a business coach to start. So I left my job December 1st, 2012.
Okay.
Is when I left corporate America. July is when we hired our business coach.
Okay.
When I left in December 1, we were break even. We were managing 67 properties. 30 of them were ours. 31 were ours. So we had 30 something properties. And I just hired my first main employee and at Empire. And so I knew that on the home front, my wife and I discussed this. So again, cautionary tale number 3 or 4, whatever we're on, make sure your significant other is on the same page as you.
Yeah.
So my wife was like, I can't believe, why are you not quitting? She was wanting me to leave so I can start the business because she had more faith in me than I did in myself at the time.
I had the same story. Yep.
So your wife has to be on the same. So what I did, not knowing that I was preparing for this moment, but I was preparing for this moment. So I had no debt. My house was paid for. I have no kids, so I had no colleges to worry about. Cars were paid for. House was paid for. Only debt I had was the rental properties. Was the only debt, which in theory should be quote unquote making me money. They weren't, but and then my wife had a job.
Yeah.
So I was able to live the same style with losing a lot of money. So I was able to take one step back to take 2 steps forward.
Yeah.
And I was able to invest in the business coach still. I was able to not take some salary. And because I was able to do all that, I speak a different language today than I did when I was an employee. When I was the IT guy for a company called Stage Stores, they don't exist anymore. Cautionary tale number 5. If you're an employee and the company goes under, you're out of a gig, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What I was doing at Stage, I did it for 12 years.
Okay.
But I didn't have 12 years experience. I had experience doing something 1 year and then repeating it 12 times.
Yeah.
Right? When you own a business, if you are not going to invest in yourself, meaning learning about either your industry that you're in or just in business in general, if you're not going to read books and you're not going to go to seminars, you're not going to listen to your business coach or not going to get a coach, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to learn and you have to continue to grow
Continuously.
And the business will only grow to the amount of you as you as the owner of that business.
Exactly. Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I mean, when I started Pacific Rim, it was me and a card table and Google Drive. And that's it. It was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I got to do it, man. And I was blessed only because we sold our house. We had some money to kind of live on while I did that. But it was scary. And it takes time for that business to build. And I couldn't imagine just quitting everything and just jumping right at it.
I think it takes time for the business to build, especially when it's your first business.
Exactly.
Because you have no idea. Like now that I'm building VPM, it's easier.
Yeah.
Business doesn't get easier. You get better.
Right. So what would you say, like the first couple of years of Empire, we've talked before, there's always some things that happen? Like, oh man, I didn't realize that was going to happen. Some mistakes you've made. Like, what were some of the things at the beginning that made you better today running your business now?
Yeah, I'd say the first thing is that we don't know how to hire people.
Yeah.
Right. So you go about and you try to hire people and you have no process, you have no system, you have no experience in hiring people. And so you hire the wrong people. Right.
Right.
So having a culture and a core value, set of core values in your business is paramount. And I used to think it was just paper fodder. Like, hey, I created some core values and I just put them on the wall, right? Mm-hmm. But what core values does is what I learned is like, it basically is the instructions on the type of person you want in your business.
Yep.
So I would say hiring the wrong people. Number two was when we were first starting out, we couldn't offer tons of benefits. We couldn't offer great salaries. We just didn't have the resources to do that. So you feel that you are not worthy of good people, which hurt us as well. So I didn't feel I was worthy of good people. Mm-hmm. So I was hiring, people that I would never hire now. And these are the people that are literally running your business. Now think about it. If you have 5 people working for your business and you have 2 people that are terrible, well, that's like almost 50% of your business of people that are terrible.
Yeah.
Right. And so, those are the hiring stuff was big. Creating job descriptions and job roles.
Yeah.
I didn't know what people should be doing. So how do I hire somebody, and get them to perform well if I don't even know what they're doing?
Yeah.
And then how do I even measure that? Mm-hmm. So today, right, we call them, I call them core values, right? To get the right person on the boat, in the boat. Mm-hmm. Then I call it, job description and personality profile, right? So each one of my job roles at VPM and at Empire, after a year or two, had a job description. Each job description had a personality profile that should be attached to that job description.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now I know that based on my core values, the type of person I want, based on my job description, I know what they should do. Right. And based on the personality profile, I know the personality that will resonate, right?
Sure.
Example might be an accounting person needs to be super detail oriented. Right. Your salesperson, not so much, right? The accounting person personality is never going to fit in the sales personality.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the main thing was to put it all together was what are the drivers? What's the metrics? What's the key performance indicators?
Yeah.
What are those? They're all the same thing. I'm just using them all interchangeably.
Sure.
So how does, if I go hire somebody, how do they know they're doing a good job?
Exactly.
Right. And so if I have these 2 or 3 KPIs and they're hitting them, they know they're doing a good job. Right. And now you can actually create bonus around that.
Sure.
Right. So if I have maintenance coordinator and they're supposed to get a 4.5, customer satisfaction rate, and they're supposed to have 15% of work orders that are over so many days open or lower, they know what they're going after. They know,
exactly.
And the KPI then has all of the benefits of everything that you're looking for.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the other big one. So I'll give you one that's more detailed for property management. But early on, I didn't realize I had to give monthly reports.
Monthly reports. What do you mean?
To my clients.
Oh.
Wow.
So early on, people would call up and say, "Hey, I need my report." I'm like, "We don't do that." And then I'd say another mistake was we positioned ourselves to be the lowest of the low, right? So we went in saying, okay, everybody else is charging X per month. We're going to charge $50. We're going to be the lowest guys. And we had the crappiest website. Yeah. We looked like the low income guy. And then we're getting all these people who only look to you because of money, right? Not value. We weren't value based. We were money based.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to build a company that's money based, you're going to do the Walmart method.
Sure.
Right. Then you have to understand you're going to get people like the only thing they're worried about is how much you charge and what you do for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas we turned that around about 18 months later, we turned that around and we became the Cadillac, if you will, of the property management. And we went from charging the lowest to charging the highest.
Nice.
And our marketing, was reflective of that.
Okay. Got it.
And so those are just some of the mistakes that I made. Yeah. I can just sit here and go all on, on an hour on all the mistakes we made.
Yeah.
But here's the cool thing. We made a lot of mistakes, but we survived.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. So if you're a business owner or you're a new business owner, just knowing that you can make mistakes. What is it? I don't want to use a double negative here, but don't not make a decision because you're worried about making a mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Fail fast forward, make the mistake and
Yeah.
move on, and just make sure you can correct it quickly.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. So, at some point, Empire hit its stride. You guys were successful. And then during that whole process, somebody introduced you to talent overseas. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, property management is a service-based industry, right? So that means as we grow, we need more people, right? So think of it like in your construction business, Chris, right?
Yeah.
As you get more business, you need more people.
Exactly.
So if you're in any kind of business like that, right? I can go on and on, landscaping, AC,
Right.
Service technicians, whatever it is, as you grow, you need more people. Well, the challenge is people are your biggest expense. They cost a lot of money. So go back to make sure you hire the right people, right? Because if you hire the right people, then it's worth it.
Yep.
What was happening with our industry was that the property managers that we were hiring for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year were doing menial, what I call low enjoyment tasks.
Yeah.
Right? Meaning I'm paying somebody $60,000 a year to click a checklist. Right. To check a checklist, or to call a resident to see how everything went, or to call a vendor to schedule an appointment.
Yeah.
And so what I realized is every time that I had to go hire somebody because we were growing the business, I was going into the red, meaning Empire would go from profitability to negative, right? We weren't making any money.
Right.
And then you're on this seesaw where I got to get more business. Mm-hmm. I got to stress my team out to become profitable to the point where they're ready to quit. Right. And then I got to go hire somebody else. Yeah. So you're on this seesaw of emotion. You as the owner, like, oh, great, we made money this month. Oh, now we're not making any money. Yeah. Now we got to go hire, right? Or people like potentially going to leave. And by the way, it's not your bad people that leave. It's your good people that leave.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And so I had to determine how can I run a company and reduce stress for the team, but also have the company be profitable. Mm-hmm. And that's where overseas talent came in.
Okay.
Right. And so I hired people out of Mexico. I know there's other countries out there. Philippines is another one that a lot of people. And so what this allowed us to do, this allowed us to hire really good people, right, for less money.
Right.
And, everybody says, well, okay, a couple of things here. One is that you're taking advantage of these people in Mexico because you're only paying them $8 an hour. What in actuality, $8 an hour is a really good, fair paying wage in Mexico.
Exactly.
It goes a long way.
Yeah, it's just like I'm a virtual assistant. So for me, the payment that Chris is giving me is just like too much in Mexico,
Oh, it's too much?
Like, it's a lot of money here and there, but
Right.
yeah, it's just like it's a really good payment.
Yeah.
So it's a really good salary. So here in the United States, it could be just like you're paying them half of paying them half of what a person here in the United States with a degree would get, and you're paying Mexico just like the half of the payment,
And for people in the U.S., I equate this to this, right? Okay, if I went and hired a property manager that lived in California, I'm going to have to pay that person $110,000 a year.
Yep.
If I have that same person, but they lived in Arkansas, I can get them for $40,000 a year. So now I'll take that person in Arkansas and now move them to Mexico, Guadalajara or Aguascalientes, and you can pay them $8 an hour. Mm-hmm. Right, which is it's just where the cost of living is. Now I can take that same person and I can move them to Philippines and I can pay $5 an hour.
Right.
And what I have found is when I try to hire people in the U.S. for these low level jobs, I was going back to those people that I was hiring when I first started Empire. Yeah. The people that they may have a GED, maybe high school diploma, but they have so many challenges in their life and they bring them into your business and they become poison in your business.
Exactly.
And then, of course, as soon as they start doing something, they want more money. Mm-hmm. And so what we have found is when we went to the virtual team members in Mexico, not only was I getting people that were happy to get the money that we were paying them, but they were educated. They're obviously bilingual because they speak in Spanish and English. They were happy with the job. Like they were like excited about the opportunity. Yeah. And that was something that I never got in the U.S. for that level. Now, my higher level people, I get that, right? But in this business, in this industry, is for property management and most service-based industries, you need a lot of taskers, is what we call them, right? People that can just do the task, customer service. again, lower level jobs that people in the US want way much money more, want way too much money for.
Exactly.
And so so that's why we did it. And the interesting thing was I hired a lot more people, okay? And before I hired the virtual team members, 56% of my revenue was going to salary. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but 30 to 34% of your revenue should be salary.
Okay.
So we were 20 points higher than that, 22% higher than that. I hired more people, and that rate went down to 36%. So we were right outside the range. And you could make an argument it could be a little bit higher for that 36% for service-based industries, but we went from 56% to 36%, right? Hiring more people. And what happened was it reduced the stress on our PMs. Our PMs were able to sell more.
Yeah.
We were able to take on more business without what's called churn, without losing clients.
Yeah.
And we were able to have less stress on the team. So I had less team churn.
Yep.
So by hiring more people, my revenue actually increased. Right? Because it increased because less people were leaving. It increased because I was getting more referrals. It increased because we were taking care of more business. And increased because we can add more more programs to our current clients.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which are like 90% profit margin.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden I went from a chaotic business to one that was running really smoothly and was able to grow.
Yeah.
And was happy. Like all of a sudden the culture changed. Everybody's like, okay, we love working here.
Yeah.
And so that's really why we did it. And I was going to hire one person. I interviewed 4. I hired all 4 of them.
That's what I did too.
And what I found is 2.5 people in Mexico for one person in the US.
Yeah.
2.5 times. So think about that. If I can replace one person who's, a subpar team member, and I can replace that person with 2 people, right? Let's call it even 3. How many more tasks get done when you have 2 people, right? 50% more or 100% more. If you have 3, what is it? I mean, 150% to 200% more. Yeah. So you get the tasks get done, and now your clients are happier.
Yep.
And now they're singing your praises. And now I'm not having to spend money because I have a BBB complaint.
Yeah.
I'm not having to spend time and effort because I have a negative review on Yelp.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And so it changed the business.
Yeah.
And so when I sold Empire, I realized that there's a lot of people out there in these small businesses that don't know how to reach and get to virtual team members. Yeah. And that's when we created VPM Solutions to solve this challenge.
Yeah. So you guys, when I first started my company, I tried to pretty much do everything Empire did. And you all helped me get my first couple of VAs, and anything that wasn't boots on the ground is being done in Mexico. And there's a lot of talent down there, and we've been able to scale our business because of them. We couldn't do it without them. So you found success in Empire. You're helping other businesses get some VAs on their team, sold Empire. Now you're into VPM. So tell us a little bit more about VPM.
Yeah. So VPM is obviously a tech play versus a service-based play. And so why is that important, right? With a service-based company, you can actually start the company, not take a salary.
Right.
And there is less stress on the household. Even though you're not taking a salary, it's not costing you anything, right? And then you have all these hats. And as you start getting revenue, you could take a hat off. Okay?
Right.
With a service-based company, when you sell that company, you sell between 1 to 2 times revenue in most cases.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's not worth as much as a tech company, which sells anywhere from 10 to 17 times revenue.
Okay.
Now with a tech company though, unless you're a developer, you're gonna need some development time.
Yeah.
And so for VPM, because I sold Empire, I was able to invest money in development and create VPM, and it's a tech play. And so that's where it's a little bit different on how we manage and run the business.
Yeah.
Service-based company, I was there literally every day managing the day-to-day operations because every day there's something new, right? It's like a box of chocolates, property management, right? You never know what you're going to get.
Yep.
With technology, the tech does all the work in most cases. So you become more of a tech and a marketing firm, right? So everything that I'm doing is about marketing and making sure that the development of the product is hitting what the clients are looking for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're always doing enhancements. We're always fixing bugs, and we're always looking at the next version or iteration of VPM.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting on the dynamics of how to run each one of those different types of businesses.
Yeah.
I will say the tech business on most days is less stressful than a service-based business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Because a service-based business, you are so reliant on people.
Right.
Somebody doesn't show up to an appointment.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or, or somebody doesn't answer the phone. There's always somebody that's upset, especially in property management, because you are the shim stock between the owner and the resident. And if you do your job correctly, neither one of them are very happy.
Exactly. Exactly. So, VPM, you take your experience from being an entrepreneur, starting a business, your experience with using talent overseas, and you got VPM. So who's your customer for VPM?
Yeah, so VPM is a platform that is designed for the real estate industry, but focusing mainly on property management right now.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about VPM that differentiates our platform from others is you can literally find job descriptions that are based in property management. When you do searches, you can search based on software that supports the property management industry or the real estate industry. Right. And we actually have training that the virtual team members can take and get certifications. We have 12 training courses right now as of today, where they can go in and they could take an overview of property management, or they can go deeper into like advertising with property management, maintenance with property management. Yeah. And then when you post a job for looking for somebody, you can ask if they've taken that training, because let's be honest, most people in Mexico, Philippines, Costa Rica, wherever they're from, do not have skills or do not have experience in property management in U.S. Right. So this is a way to get people at least the high-end knowledge on property management. So this way, when you're hiring somebody or contracting with somebody, you're not getting somebody and you have to teach them like the acronyms. Right. What does DOM mean? Right. Days on market. What does turn mean? Things of that nature. Yeah. By them taking the classes, at least they're getting the high level overview of what's going on. Yeah. So that's our main clients right now is property managers, brokerages. We have transaction coordinators on there, and then anything that can be done in your office that doesn't require a license or to physically be at the property, you can move overseas.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So I hired quite a few people successfully on VPM. We use VPM for payroll, which is like just really healed this headache I had for so many years doing payroll for my overseas talent. And VPM just came in and solved it overnight. And now it's not a worry in my mind at all. So it's been great for us. But we also use it on our construction side. So, I can use it for my construction side and for my property management side. I've got a team on VPM for my construction side as well. So one thing that I'm noticing when I'm working with other, service-based people, and I say, oh yeah, Alma on my team, she's in Mexico. Oh, you talk to Fernanda, you know what? She's in Mexico. Like my operations and everything is done in Mexico. And there's a little bit of a fear in their mind of like, oh gosh, I'd love to hire someone, but I don't know about overseas. What would you say to someone like that?
Depends on what the fear is, right? A lot of times the fear is, well, they may steal time, right? That's kind of the biggest fear. Yeah. And look, as an organization, as a country in the United States, we're post-pandemic, and we are going more and more virtual. Yeah. Like my wife works for a major corporation, and she works 2 to 3 days a week at home. Right. And most people are working from home. So if you're already doing that, plus if you're in service industry, like the construction industry, you're betting on your guys are taking that car, that van, and driving to the appointments. Right. So get over the whole stealing of time thing, because if they can do it in the U.S. and you're okay with it, they're going to do it in Mexico. Right. And then I would say that to solve that, you can easily put in KPIs and manage them. If you could put in, if you can manage your people locally, you can probably manage your people remotely. Yeah. Unless you're just sitting at the desk with them like all day long. So I would just say, look, you can put in some management tools, KPI sheets. The other thing is, okay, I'm not sure how to pay them. Well, that's where VPM Solutions comes in, where you pay US dollars. VPM charges your credit card or your bank account, and then it pays the folks using our systems on the back end, and they get paid in this case in Mexico, you get paid in pesos.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the two big ones that I see. The other one is if their clients call, they might be worried that the client is talking to somebody in Mexico.
Right.
Well, you don't have to disclose that the people they're talking to are Mexico.
Yeah.
What I have found, what I have found is that if you hire people in Mexico, they might have a small accent, like a Mexico or a Spanish accent. People in the U.S. don't even think about that because we have so many people.
Common.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to India and you hear that dialect, for whatever reason, your clients get upset and they think that you're a call center.
Yeah.
And so you have to just be conscious of that, right? So if you're going to have customer facing people, maybe Central America or South America, and if you're going to have back end support, that might be, kind of the Asian, like Philippines kind of countries.
And the good thing about VPM is that there's a filter where you can specifically look for people who actually lived in the U.S. And typically those who lived in the U.S. have a really good grasp of the English language, and maybe even sound like they are American living in the U.S. So that's been our experience. Yeah.
We, when we had Empire, we had a big old hurricane come through.
Yeah.
Right. Hurricane Harvey come through, and we were calling our clients and all that stuff. And one of the clients calls, and they get to Daniela, and they're like, "Oh man!" And they're talking to Daniela, and they're like, "Well, I hope you weren't affected." Daniela's like, "I'm a little further south." Daniela lives in Aguas Calientes, Mexico. She didn't get hit by Harvey.
That's funny. All right. So let's just say, we got a small business owner. They're ready to make the step. Like, okay, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to hire someone virtually. How can VPM help someone out like that who really, this is their first time, they're a little scared? What can VPM do for them? Yeah.
So, well, first of all, the VPM site is just vpmsolutions.com. They can go on that site, and VPM does not, we make our money by charging the virtual team member 10% of what they make. Mm-hmm. So there is no fee. So like you can try it, and if no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
VPM offers a white glove service. It's a free service where if you're interested, we can walk you through the whole hiring process.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like having a recruiter for free.
Sure. Yeah.
But the only thing is we just recruit off of our site, and we don't interview.
Yeah.
Like, so we'll even like go through all the resume cards, and we say, hey, these are the 5 people we think that you should interview.
Right.
Go ahead and interview.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you don't have your core values and you don't have your KPIs, you don't have your job descriptions, it's the chances of it working are reduced.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, we don't build core values for you. We can tell you about core values, but I can't build your core values. Yeah. I don't work in your company.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, okay, cool. So, with, you started about a year ago or so, and you're here now. I mean, there's so much you've done in the last year. What's coming up with VPM? What's in the pipeline that people can get excited about?
Well, man, we just rolled out, like literally this week that we're taping, we just rolled out the training. So that's kind of the thing that we're excited about right now.
Yeah.
We rolled out 2 major projects this year, which was company accounts, where you can have people in your company have different levels of permissions. It has grouped reporting, and we have the training. So over the next couple of months, we're actually going to work on the back end, so that we can solve some of the limitations on the searches. And I know one thing everybody's asking for is, can I create favorites? Right, I want to star these 4 people, so I can go back to them, and so that's all going to happen. And we will be mobile friendly by the end of the year as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
And then we'll have an app next year, but this year we'll be mobile friendly.
Nice.
Oh,
that's
cool.
great.
So just like the last question that we have for you, Pete, is what is the best business advice you've ever received? Like
the best business advice I ever received, man, I received a lot of it. I will say, I'll give you a couple. All right. The first one is marketing is the lifeblood of your business.
Yeah.
And as an operations guy, I hate to admit that, but that is the truth.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marketing is the lifeblood of your business.
Yep.
And if you read the E-Myth Revisited by Dr. Gerber, he literally talks about this, right? So most people, they market and then they stop marketing and they go service, and then once the service is done, they have nothing in the pipeline, so they have to go market. It's called the seesaw effect. And I gotta give it to my business partner Steve.
Yeah.
Even when we were bleeding and losing clients on the back end because we couldn't handle the business, he said it's never stop the marketing. We can't, because once you stop the marketing, when you turn it back on, it goes back to that little drip.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so you have to spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say is you have to invest in yourself more than you invest in your, I would say not your business, but like in whatever you're doing right now. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So the business, the second thing I'd say is the business only grows to the level of its leader.
Exactly.
So if you don't have a business coach or a mentor or growing yourself, I know, Chris, you read like a book a week.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, books are great ways. If you can't afford a business coach, look, by the way, find successful people. Mentors will give you the time for free. Yeah. They love helping people. Once they're successful, they love helping other people. So go find, what I did is I found people in the industry. So I found them through NARPM, right? So go find a local trade, right? Go find and go to those conferences. Right. Mm-hmm. And I actually started calling people who were where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so I was able to go from, 0 doors, if you will, to 100 doors in very little time, because I was just able to mimic what other people did.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Tony Robbins, I forget what he calls it. He calls it something, but basically Tony Robbins says just mimic them, and so that's what we did. Like, go find somebody that is where in their business, where they are, where you want to be. Yeah. Go take them out to lunch, especially if they're not in your town. Yeah. Right. So it's much easier for me to give people advice that are, in, California than it is in Houston. Right. Because they weren't direct competitors. Even though I did help my competitors out here in Houston too. I don't mind.
Sure. Yeah.
There's enough business for everybody.
Yeah. We're all in the same game. Yep. Absolutely. So I'm sorry.
Go ahead. That's what I say. So that's kind of my tidbits.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
What, how would anyone contact you if they're interested in VPM or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, best thing is email is pete@vpmsolutions.com. So VPM, Victor, Peter, Michael, or virtual property management, vpmsolutions.com. Okay. And pete@vpmsolutions.com, or just go to the website. And then I'm all on the social media platforms as well.
And we'll have a link on our website, elevationconstructionteam.com/podcast. And we'll have the link to VPM on there, and all the information from this podcast. So anyway, Pete, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for being a friend and a mentor of mine.
Thank you for being a friend. Yeah. I'll keep my day job.
Yeah, please do.
Thanks for allowing me to be on your podcast.
Yeah, and thanks for adding value to our audience. And I really look forward to seeing the success and the continued success for VPM and for yourself.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. That was an excellent podcast with Pete Neubig. I spend a lot of time with Pete. I'm in a mastermind with him. And every time I spend time with him, I always leave being a better person. And that podcast has just proved why I feel that way.
Yeah, it was really good. Like, he hit some really good points there. I've learned a lot from that podcast that we have. It's just like, I don't know, like, some entrepreneurs sometimes think that having a business is easy. You're going to get all this amount of money in a really quick time, but just the reality is not. And I don't know, that's what Pete is saying on this episode, that you need to make sure that you know that you're not going to get like that much money in that fast,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it was great that he shared his journey, that it's not all, just roses and smelling good and everything's perfect. He talked about a lot of the struggles that they went through. And I think the reason why Pete is so good right now is because he learned from a lot of mistakes. In fact, his business partner and my business coach, Steve Rosenberg, wrote a book about failing his way to millions, right? So failure is part of the journey. So entrepreneurs out there, if you're new or if you're thinking about it, I mean, that's just part of the journey. Is just dealing with those failures. And then even when things are great, there's always something that pops up just as part of the journey. So I took down a few notes. He had some good points that I liked. One thing is that if you're married or you have a significant other in your life, that jumping into the entrepreneur life you really need that person to be on the same page, because you do need that support base. And I'm experiencing that in my life right now, where I do have a very supportive wife. But if she wasn't on board, this would be very difficult.
Yeah.
And so he also said, you are going to fail. So there are going to be times where you're going to fail. So you're just going to have to deal with it. The business will continue to survive when you make mistakes, is what he said. And then towards the end, he was talking about how the importance of core values. And that's something that we have really dialed in our companies, is our core values. You hire people based on your core values. And then if you fire someone, you fire them based on your core values. So he talked about the core values, the job descriptions, and then he ran into KPIs, right? And measuring the success of the team. And then those KPIs will tell you the health of the business as well. So he went into a lot of that stuff. And then what I liked at the end is how he talked about bringing on virtual team members. And, he talked about how they got into that, the reason why behind it, and how, bringing on great talent from overseas, in his case, it was Mexico, how that was able to decrease his cost in salaries. So he went from like 55% down to 36%, which is quite significant. Your perspective, Fernanda, on the view of Pete's for, working with a virtual team.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. What I was thinking is right now with COVID, I think Pete just really got the idea. And, like it was really a great idea. And like everyone right now is working home office, they're at their house, it's better. So it's just like Pete creating this business, like he really saw the vision and he made it. So I think it was really good. Like we've talked a lot in this podcast about just like how virtual assistant works and everything, and just like some business owners are afraid just to maybe hire someone in another country, but it's just like you have to do it, because I don't know, it's just better. As you said, the labor cost, it goes lower. So I think it's pretty good that Pete had this idea and he did it,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah, so he did believed in it so much that when he sold his company, he started a new company focused on the virtual world and the virtual environment internationally. So I think it's pretty amazing. It just shows where his heart is, and he sees there's value in bringing on virtual team members overseas. And I'm experiencing that myself too. So anyway, any other closing thoughts that you could think of for that?
Well, it's just, he only said one thing that really resonated with me. Is like it doesn't get easier, you just get better, like I was really good. Like I really like that, because that's true. And it's just like with what Pete said, like about his story, just like it was tough. Just also from being getting like this amount of money, then just going to this smoothie company and just working for a 17-year-old that just mopping floors and everything. It's just like, that's a big difference. It's just like, okay, so what am I doing here? Then he started his own business. So it's just like, maybe you're going to be in some points, and like this for small business owners, entrepreneurs, like you're going to be in points like, it's like, what am I doing right here? Like I'm so lost. You just have to continue with the vision. You just have to continue with your objective and say like, okay, so I'm going to get to that point. I'm going to get to my goal. And it's going to be tough, but then it's going to be easy, and it's not because the thing got easy. You just become better. Better. I don't know. Yeah. So it was a really good, I don't know, input from him. So
yeah, absolutely. And that was a very good point too. And it helped me out quite a bit too. So, but anyway, that was an excellent episode. Great first guest for us. I know we have several great guests lined up, so we're really looking forward to that. And with that, do you want to go ahead and wrap it up?
Yeah, sure. So thank you everyone for being here on this episode. It was really good, and we hope that everyone took something from it. And just as Chris said, we're going to have great guests, so just like be waiting for the next episodes. And thank you, Pete, for being our first guest here. It was pretty cool. We had a lot of fun with you. So just stay safe and stay virtual.
Hey everyone, Steve Rosenberg, and we're here in Florida with palm trees, beaches, sunshine. You do not want to miss my Business Mansion Mastermind, October 12th through the 14th in Houston, Texas. I'm going to show you how to take your business to the next level, and I'm bringing in some of the top people in the business world. I'm talking Brad Lee, the Iron Cowboy, Dr. Kevin Elko, and Errol Allen, all to help you reshape your business and your mindset in 3 days, followed by unlimited coaching after that. Go to bizmansion.com and I'll see you in Houston.